Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So I've obviously been very nostalgic lately working on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression series, and I also wanted to trace some other parts of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s history as well. And so for this video, we're going to be covering the top 10 Aqua monsters of all time. Now, this list isn't going to be ranked in any particular way, but there's a lot of monsters that are both old and new that you may not have thought about when it comes to tracing this part of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s history. So for our first Aqua monster, we have one of the most annoying cards you could possibly see across the table, and that is Barrier Statue of the Torrent. Barrier Statue of the Torrent reads, neither player can special summon monsters except water monsters. Seems simple enough, but when you realize that water monsters aren't necessarily always at the forefront of the competitive meta, this can actually be a very difficult card to deal with. Barrier Statue of the Torrent often finds itself at the center of Barrier Stun, a strategy that basically revolves around getting these statues on the field, protecting them at all costs, and locking out the opponent by any means necessary. It's even seen modern play in tandem with cards like Gishki, allowing you to special summon the barrier statue directly from your deck, locking your opponent out for the rest of the turn. Then you can just link off the statue to go for something like Area the Water Charmer, and you're free to go on with the rest of your plays. While Torrent may be innocuous, this card is deceptively powerful, and that's why it made the list. Now, my second Aqua monster is so dangerous it actually found its way onto the limited list, and that card is Danger Nessie. You can reveal Danger Nessie in your hand, and your opponent randomly chooses one card. Then you discard the chosen card, and if the discarded card was not Danger Nessie, you get to special summon Nessie from your hand, and if you do, draw one card. But if this card is discarded, you can add one danger card from your deck to your hand, except Nessie, and you can only use this effect of Danger Nessie once per turn. One of the reasons why Danger Nessie is so powerful is because regardless of either outcome, Nessie is going to replace itself. If it summons itself, you get to draw a card. If it hits itself, you get to search for another danger. This was part of a core group of danger monsters in tandem with Danger Jackalope and Tsuchinoko that would all effectively replace themselves, and you'd never lose any advantage. There's a reason why Danger Nessie finally ended up on the limited list, and that's because these cards started becoming standard in a multitude of decks, and having essentially 9 upstart goblins was a little bit too powerful. Now, for my third pick, I've actually got a couple cards that have been on the limited list for quite some time now because of how degenerate they truly are, and that is Gishki Mind August and Gishki Gust Kraken. Gishki Gust Kraken is a ritual monster that you can ritual summon with any Gishki ritual spell card, and when it's ritual summoned, look at up to 2 random cards in your opponent's hand, then shuffle one of them into the deck. And when Gishki Mind August is ritual summoned, you can target up to 5 cards in any graveyards and shuffle those targets into the deck. Both of these cards are incredibly degenerate and enable so many different variations of hand loops that they had to be restricted for this purpose. We've seen our fair share of strong ritual decks, but when it comes to Gishki Gust Kraken and Mind August, these are 2 of the strongest, and that's why they have found their way not only onto the limited list, but onto my top 10 Aqua list as well. Now, for my fourth card, we actually have one of my favorites. This is one of the most terrorizing cards imaginable, and that is Gameciel, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. You can special summon Gameciel to your opponent's field in attack position by tributing one monster they control. If your opponent controls a Kaiju monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in attack position. You can only control one Kaiju monster. When your opponent activates a card or effect except Gameciel, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, as a quick effect, you can remove 2 Kaiju counters from anywhere on the field, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. The most appealing aspect about Gameciel is purely the fact that it's one of the first Kaiju monsters to ever hit the game. Being able to tribute over one of your opponent's threats, whether it's a card that's immune to all of your other threats, you can just tribute your opponent's monster for Gameciel, and Gameciel will do the job perfectly. Gameciel has always been perceived as the best Kaiju because of its low attack stat being 2200, making it reasonably easy to get over compared to some of its other Kaiju brethren. But if you look past the actual Kaiju aspect of this card and actually look at Gameciel's effect, if you have a way to use Kaiju counters in any capacity, Gameciel is by far the most powerful. Being able to quick effect negate literally anything and then banish the card on top of it, what more could you really ask for? Gameciel will continue to see play for years to come, and it's no surprise that it made its way onto the top 10 Aqua monsters of all time. Now we're about halfway through with my fifth pick, and man, my hand's starting to get a little bit cold because my 5th pick is actually going to be Ice Hand. When Ice Hand in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one spell or trap card they control, destroy that target. Then you can special summon one Fire Hand from your deck. While this card may not seem too intimidating by today's standards, Ice Hand was actually a tier 1 threat back in its prime. In tandem with Fire Hand, Ice Hand could easily just start annihilating an opponent's board if they happen to leave a monster in attack position that has more than 1700 attack. By crashing your hands into that opposing monster one by one, you can piece apart their board with surgical precision and ultimately take full control of any duel. Ice Hand definitely leaves a lasting legacy, and even to this day, some players still look to this card as maybe a side deck pick, but it's definitely a terrifying threat for sure. Now for my 6th card, we're actually going to take a trip to the Xyz era because there are plenty of powerful aqua monsters to be had, and one of which made its way onto this list, and that monster is Levier the Sea Dragon. Levier the Sea Dragon, which is an aqua type for some reason, also a wind attribute, that's weird, requires 2 level 3 monsters to make. Once per turn, you can detach one material from Levier, then target one banished level 4 or lower monster, special summon that target to your field. What's incredible about Levier by modern standards is that it doesn't have a hard once per turn clause anywhere on its text, which means any deck that can vomit out rank 3 monsters such as Levier and actually uses the banished pile, Levier can be a very powerful source of recursion to be able to continue comboing off. While it does have a bit of an identity crisis and can't really decide what it wants to be, that doesn't really take away from the fact of how powerful of a card it truly is, and that's why Levier found its way onto this list. Now, in the number 7 slot, we have a handful of different monsters because, again, I really couldn't pick just one because I didn't think it would really be doing it justice, but they all are a part of the same archetype, and that is Mermail. Now, yes, I know not all of the Mermail monsters are aqua, but there are several that are, and we're going to go ahead and bunch them all together. Mermail Abystius is probably the most notable considering it is the searcher for the archetype and can really just get your combo plays going by getting whatever you need to your hand and getting a body onto the field. Mermail Abyss Gund is great because it's a great combo extender allowing you to get back any of those Mermail monsters in your graveyard, and Mermail Abyss Gaios is one hell of a boss monster that you cannot underestimate. While it may not be as strong as it used to be upon release, Gaios is still basically a walking skill drain to a degree, being able to negate the effects of all face-up monsters that your opponent controls, and having 2800 attack, this is usually one of the final pieces of any Mermail end board if they are looking to lock things up. The Mermail archetype is notorious for being one of the strongest water-based attributes in the game, and with several of those monsters being aqua, I really couldn't just pick one. Now for my 8th pick, this card is an absolute classic. For anyone who played back in the Soul of the Duelist days, you're going to know exactly where we're going with this, because this is one of the most terrifying aqua monsters to ever see play, and that card is Mobius the Frost Monarch. When Mobius the Frost Monarch is tribute summoned, you can target up to 2 spell and trap cards on the field and destroy those targets. Back in the day, this card was absolutely devastating, being able to just generate so much advantage, not only from its effect, but then being a 2400 body on top of that, making it a very menacing threat for your opponent to deal with. Mobius is an absolute magnet for removal because with its effect, it was able to easily 2-for-1 or even 3-for-1 your opponent a lot of the time just by being able to tribute summon this card out. While Mobius no longer sees play because it's been power crept into the dark depths of the ocean, it's still a monster that definitely deserves some recognition because of the lasting impact it truly had back in its day. With only 2 cards left on the list, this is going to bring us back to the Xyz era, and we've been jumping all over the place, but this card definitely left its mark, and that card is number 101, Silent Honor Arc. Honor Arc requires 2 level 4 monsters to make, and you can detach 2 materials from it to target one special summon monster your opponent controls in face-up attack position. Attach it to this card as material. Now you can only use this effect of 101 once per turn, but if this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach 1 material from this card instead. It may be mind-blowing to some of you that this card was about $50 to $60 back when it was competitively viable. There really wasn't an effect like this that existed at that time. Being able to not only take one of your opponent's monsters, but make it a material on top of it, it was able to dodge so many sort of different effects. Being 2100 wasn't the worst stat line, and on top of that, it had built-in protection as well by using the opponent's monster as that form of protection. Honor Arc was truly frightening because if you left a special summon monster in face-up attack position, you had no idea if that monster was still going to be on your field on the next turn. An incredible way to out numerous threats. Honor Arc definitely deserves to be on this list. And that brings us to our 10th and final slot on the top 10 Aqua monsters of all time. And again, I couldn't really just pick one here because there are so many different cards that fall into this category, but we're going to end off on a good one, and that is the frogs. Frog monsters have always managed to find themselves a home in Yu-Gi-Oh! In one way or another. Treeborn Frog was one of the first playable frog monsters from Shadow of Infinity, which was able to constantly resurrect itself every single standby phase, and made for great tribute fodder for monsters like Monarchs or even cards like Enemy Controller. Swap Frog would become the honorary mascot of the frog archetype because being able to dump any frog from deck to grave and giving yourself additional normal summons, it just did everything the deck wanted. Substitoad is one of the most infamous frog monsters because it is solely responsible for the frog FTK. And even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! We have cards like Totally Awesome, which are still representing the frog archetype strong. This series of monsters truly resonates with the players, and I think we're going to continue to see more of them for years to come. So guys, that's going to wrap up my top 10 Aqua monsters of all time, but I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about your top Aqua monsters throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you want to see more videos like this, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.